Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. In today's tutorial, we're making a cute crochet top. This peasant top affair features a classy cable, the Suzette stitch for texture, new cups, and what I'm calling a Suzette peasant strap. Feminine, fun, and fancy. Speaking of, if you're looking for more fancy makes, you are in the perfect place. We have hundreds of crochet tutorials and patterns with even more dropping weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I use a total of 150 grams of yarn, and that's 335 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount of any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us which TV show you think has the best theme song. Now, I won't add any anime to this list because that would make it way too long, so I'm going to say Kim Possible and Proud Family since I still randomly sing those. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 6 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, and double treble crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook, and we're all going to start by making a chain 8 because we're getting started with our cable stitch detail first. Now our chain should be roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters, but once we have our chain, we're going to do a half double crochet row for our first row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. Now that chain 2 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then we're all going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. Then into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, we're going to bring our hook down, into that chain, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over, pull through all 3. That's our first half double crochet. Let's do this again. Yarn over, into that next chain, pull through, and pull through all 3, and continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. Now that we have our row 1 completed, let's get started on our row 2, which is a single crochet row. So chain 1 and flip your work. Now that chain 1 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then 1 single crochet is going to be worked into every stitch. So into that first available stitch, insert with a single crochet. Again, into that next available stitch, insert with another single, and continue with 1 single crochet into every stitch. And so far, we should all have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made, so that's 8 for every size. Alright, so we are back. Our first 2 rows are completed, and now we're going to get started on a row 3, or our first cable stitch row. So chain 2 and flip. So getting started on a row 3, we're all going to start with a front post treble crochet, and that's going to be our outside stitch. So that's going to start with a yarn over of 2. Now for every cable stitch row, our cables are going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on our row 3, we're going to be inserting a hook into our row 1. So we're going to start by finding that first half double crochet from our row 1, making sure that we're not counting that chain 2. We're going to bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch, and through the other side. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and now our first front post treble crochet is completed. Now we're going to be doing a set of 2 front post double treble crochets. So that's going to start with a yarn over of 3. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. We're all going to start by skipping the following 2 stitches, from our row 1, and then into the 2 stitches right after that, 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those. So skip 1, skip 2, and then into the next, insert your hook underneath the body and through the other side. Then yarn over and pull through. Then from here, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, 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 and we're going to be doing 1 more front post double treble crochet into that following stitch. So yarn over 3 times again. Into that following stitch, bring your hook underneath and through the other side, and pull through. Then again, yarn over, pull through 2 till you have 1 loop left on our hook. So pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Then from here, we're going to be putting 1 front post double treble crochet again into each of the 2 stitches that we skipped. So from here, yarn over 3 times again. There's 1, 2, and 3. Finding that first skip stitch, we're going to bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch, and through the other side. Then yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And now we have 1 more skip stitch to work into, so another front post double treble crochet into there. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. Bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch, and through the other side. Pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Now we should have 3 stitches left from our row 1. Into each of the next 2 stitches, there's going to be 1 front post treble crochet into each of those. So yarn over twice, taking a look at the following stitch from our row 1. Insert your hook underneath the body and through the other side. Pull through, pull through 2, 2, 2, and then another front post treble into the following. So yarn over twice again. Bring your hook down and underneath through the other side. Pull through 2, 2, and 2. Now from here, everyone's last stitch is always going to be a front post treble crochet combined with a half double crochet, and it's a front post treble crochet to match the front post treble crochet that we did when we started off this row. So to do this stitch, we're going to yarn over twice. Insert your hook into the last stitch from our row 1. So bring your hook down, pull through. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now when we have those 2 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and then insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row just to secure everything down without adding an extra stitch. So into the last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert our hook. Then yarn over and pull through. And when you have those 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops, and now our row 3 is complete. Now every even number row is going to be a single crochet row. So from here, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and then I'll meet you back. Alright, so we are back. Our first 4 rows are now complete. Now let's get started on our row 5. So chain 2 and flip. Now getting started on any cable stitch row, it's always going to start with a front post treble crochet. So since we're working our row 5, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 3, and that's our previous cable stitch row. So to do a front post treble, we're all going to yarn over twice. Then into that first stitch from our previous odd number row, we're going to bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch, and pull through. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now to get started on our row 5, into the next 2 stitches, 1 front post treble crochet is going to be worked into each of those. So yarn over twice. Finding the next stitch from our previous odd number row, we're going to bring our hook underneath the body and through the other side, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then another front post treble into that following stitch. So yarn over twice again. Bring your hook underneath and through the other side, pull through 2, 2, and 2. Now to do the twist portion of our cable, we're going to be doing a set of 2 front post double treble crochets. So yarn over 3 times, and then we're going to skip over the following 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1, skip 2, and then into the next, which should be the third to last stitch from our previous odd number row. Bring our hook underneath and through the other side. Then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, 2, and 2. Then another front post double treble crochet into that following. So yarn over 3 times again. Bring our hook down, through the other side, and pull through. Then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So pull through 2, pull through 2, 2, and 2. Now from here, we're going to be working into those 2 skip stitches that we just skipped over, but now working into that window that we just made for ourselves. So what we're going to do from here is yarn over 3 times, preparing for a front post double treble crochet. Now once we have that, we're going to hang on to our working yarn, and we're going to pull our hook down towards us, finding those 2 skip stitches in through that window. So hang on to your working yarn because it can very easily fall off. And in through that window, we're going to find our 2 skip stitches, and these are mine. Here's my first, here's my second. Inserting our hook into that first one, we're going to insert our hook underneath the body and through the other side and pull through. Then yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. And this is what the twist portion should be looking like so far. And we're going to be doing 1 more. So again, yarn over 3 times. Hang on to your working yarn, pull our work down, find that last skip stitch, and then insert with 1 front post double treble crochet into there. So bring your hook underneath and through the other side and pull through. Then yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have just 1 loop left on our hook. And now that that stitch is completed, we are nearly done with our row 5. We're just going to need to close off the row with a front post treble crochet that's combined with a half double. So yarn over 1, 2 times. Into the last stitch from our previous cable stitch row, we're going to bring our hook underneath the body of that stitch, yarn over and pull through. Now, since this is the last stitch, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we'll have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. When we have those 2 loops, again, we're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet, then insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous row. So into there, and pull through. Once we have those 4 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over, pull through all 4, and now our row 5 is complete. Now, like I said in our previous clip, every even number row is a single crochet row. So chain 1, flip your work, and then put 1 single crochet, making our way all the way back down into every stitch. Alright, so our rows 1 through 6 are now complete. Now let's flip our work over to see what we have. Now all we're going to do from here is continue to repeat rows 3 through 6 until we get the height of the piece that we need. Now if you need timestamps for any of these rows, all of those will be linked in the description, but let's just get this following row started together and then I'll let you do the rest on your own. So since we are getting started on our row 7, which is going to be a repeat of our row 3, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. And like I said, for every cable stitch row, it's always going to start and end with a front post treble crochet, but remember the end one is going to be combined with a half double. So to do our regular front post treble crochet, we're going to yarn over twice. Inserting our hook into the first stitch from our previous cable stitch row and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. Then from here, we're all going to be doing a set of 2 front post double treble crochets. So yarn over 3 times now. We're going to skip 1, skip 2. Into the next, insert your hook underneath, pull through, and continue to pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. And then just to do the next one, another front post double treble crochet into that following stitch. So insert, pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2, and that's basically it. From here, we're going to finish up with a repeat of our row 3 and then continue on with that until we get a cable stitch detail that can reach from where we want the bottom of this top to be. So you can make this cropped or full length. I would like for mine to be cropped. Working our way all the way up until we are about mid-chest. So placing this first row where we'd like the bottom of this top to be, keeping in mind that the sides will have a little curve up to them, we're just going to continue to repeat rows 3 through 6 until this portion reaches up to about mid-chest, keeping in mind that we will add a few more rows. That adds up to about 1.5 inches. So all in all, continue to repeat rows 3 through 6 until we get the total length of the cable stitch detail that we want, minus 1.5 inches. And I'll meet you back right when we're about to get started on a repeat of row 5. Alright, so we are back. My cable stitch detail is complete. I have a total of 20 rows. My length is roughly 6 inches or 15 centimeters, and now we're just going to do the next few cable stitch rows together just to get our cables to come to a point. So since we're about to get started on a repeated row 5, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. Now these next few rows are going to be the same for everyone no matter what size we're making. So we're all going to start with one front post treble crochet into the first stitch from our previous cable stitch row. So this is per usual. Then we're going to basically do a repeat of row 5, but we are going to be doing decreases because we want this to come to a point. So we're all going to get started by preparing for our front post treble crochet, which starts with a yarn over of 2. Now we're going to insert our hook underneath our following 2 stitches from our previous cable stitch row. So bring your hook down underneath that first stitch and underneath that second stitch, then yarn over and pull through, and then finish off this front post treble crochet per usual. So this is basically the decrease portion. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Once we have that, we're then going to get started on our following stitch, which is a front post double treble crochet, so yarn over 3 times. Now we're going to skip the following 2 stitches, and then into the 2 stitches right after that, insert your hook underneath both of those posts, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. So this row is going to be pretty much the same way that we do our row 5s, but we're decreasing. And next we're going to do another decrease of 2 front post double treble crochets, working in through that window that we just made. So yarn over 3 times again, hang on to your working yarn and pull this down. Underneath those 2 skip stitches, we're going to bring our hook underneath that first and underneath that second skip stitch, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. And then our front post treble crochet is going to be per usual, that will be combined with a half double. So yarn over twice, into that last stitch from our previous cable stitch row, continue to pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook, then yarn over, into the last stitch, pull through all 4. Now from here, our following row is going to be a single crochet row, so chain 1, flip your work, and then 1 single crochet into every stitch, and since we did do some decreases, we should all have a total of 5 single crochets at the end of this row. Now that our 5 single crochets are complete, we're going to get started on our following row. So chain 2 and flip your work. Now we're going to be doing some more decreases. So our outside stitches are always going to be the same, which is our front post treble crochet. So insert your hook underneath with our first front post treble. Then into those 3 stitches in the middle, we're going to do a decrease of 3 front post double treble crochets. So yarn over 3 times. Into those 3 following stitches, we're going to insert our hook underneath all 3 of them. Then yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, 2, and 2. And then our last stitch is always going to be a front post treble combined with a half double. So this is per usual. Now that is our next decrease row. Our following row is a single crochet row, so chain 1, flip your work and put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and with our decreases we should have a total of 3 stitches. Then we're going to do our last row, so chain 2 and flip your work. And now we're all going to do a decrease of 3 front post double treble crochets, but now since this is the first and technically the last stitch, it will be combined with a half double as well. So right after we chain 2, we're going to yarn over 3 times. We're now going to bring our hook underneath the following 3 post stitches from our previous cable stitch row. So there's 1, there's 2, and then there's 3. Yarn over and pull through. Then per usual, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. When we have those 2 loops left, yarn over, preparing for a half double. Into the last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert, pull through, then pull through all 4 of those loops. And now our cable stitch detail is complete, and we should all have just 1 stitch at the end of the row. Now from here, we're going to get started on our side panel. So we're all going to chain 1, flip our work, and we're going to do a single crochet row working down the side of our cable stitch detail, and we are going to be alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. Now we're all going to start with 2 single crochets because our first row is a side cable stitch row. So we're going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, into that same top loop with a second single crochet. Now into our following side row, which should be a single crochet for everyone, find that top loop and insert with just one single crochet again. And let's do this once more. Find our following side row. This is mine. Since it's a side cable stitch row, insert with 2 singles. And then our following side row is a single crochet row, so insert into there with just 1 single. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down. Alright, so we are back. Our single crochet row is complete. Now before we move on to the next step, we're all going to need to make sure that the amount of single crochet rows that we have along the side of our cable stitch detail is an odd number. Now if yours is an even number, just like how mine was, go ahead and place an extra single crochet into that last side row just to make it odd. If you guys are already at an odd number, you guys are doing perfectly fine. Now once we have the single crochet row all finished up, before we get started on the following section, we're all going to need to insert a stitch marker into the 4th stitch from the top, and the top is the pointed end of our cable stitch detail. So here is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and insert your stitch marker into there. Now from here, we're going to get started on our Suzette stitch row. So chain 1 and flip your work. Alright, so getting started on our Suzette stitch row, it's going to be a single crochet and double crochet into the same stitch. So into that first stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert with a single crochet, and then into that same first stitch with a double crochet. So insert, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now that is our first Suzette stitch set. Now after we finish up a Suzette stitch set, we are always going to be skipping that following stitch because that double crochet actually counts as that stitch. If you work directly into there, we will accidentally be increasing. We're going to do another Suzette stitch set now, so be sure to skip that following stitch, and into the next insert with a single and a double. We now have 2 Suzette stitch sets. Let's do this once more. Skip that following stitch, and then into the next a single and a double. And we're just going to continue on with our Suzette stitch sets, making our way all the way up until we have 4 stitches left right before our stitch marker. Alright, so we've made our way all the way up with our Suzette stitch sets, leaving the last 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches right before our stitch marker. And now we're all going to do a decrease of 3 half double crochets. So what we're all going to do is yarn over. Skip that following stitch, and into the stitch right after that, insert, and pull through. Into the stitch right after that, which is our second to last, pull through, and then into the stitch right after that, which is our last, and pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 5 of those loops, and that is our decrease of 3 half double crochets. Now let's get started on the following Suzette stitch row. So chain 1, flip our work, and then we're going to basically repeat this row, so let's get this started. Into the last stitch from our previous row, insert with our first Suzette stitch set, which is a single crochet and double crochet into the same stitch. Now after that set, we are going to skip a stitch and then into the next with another set. And just as a really quick tip, now each of our Suzette stitch sets are going to be worked into our previous row's single crochet to get the texture that we want. So just to do this again, skip that following stitch. We can tell that that's a double crochet because it's a little bit taller. And into the following, which is a shorter stitch, so we know that that's a single crochet, we're going to do a Suzette stitch set. Continue on with this until we all have 4 stitches left. So we are back with our second Suzette stitch row. We should all now have 4 stitches left. We're now going to do another decrease. So yarn over. Skipping that 4th to last stitch, which is our next stitch, and then into the next, which is our 3rd to last, pull through, into our next, pull through, and then into our next, pull through, for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 5 of those loops. And from here, all we're going to do is basically repeat that previous row, so it's just a Suzette stitch row that ends on a decrease, until the top of our decrease portion that we have right here sits at our underbust, or roughly where our underwire would be. Now we want to make sure that we're still placing this first cable stitch row where we'd like the bottom of this top to be, and placing this last cable stitch row where we'd like the top of this cable stitch detail to be, and then just making sure that we're making enough room for our cup. So I will meet you guys back right after an odd number row, so along the bottom, and then we can work straight into our underarm portion from there. I am back with my side panel. I have a total of 11 rows. My width is now roughly 3 inches or 8 centimeters, or my total width is 5 inches or 13 centimeters. And now from here, we're going to get started on our underarm portion, And all that's going to be is just our Suzette stitch rows with no more increases and no more decreases until this can reach over to mid underarm. So getting this row started, we're all going to chain 1, flip your work, and then do our Suzette stitch row all the way down until we all have 2 stitches left. So we've made our way all the way down with our Suzette stitch row, and we should all have 2 stitches left. All we're going to do is close the row off with 1 half double crochet. So yarn over. Skipping that second to last stitch, and then into the last, insert with just 1 half double crochet. Now that is going to be the row for our underarm portion. So what we're going to do is chain 1, flip our work, do our Suzette stitch row all the way down when we have 2 stitches left. 1 half double crochet is going to be worked into the last stitch, just like how this row was completed. We're going to continue to work that row until we now have a portion that can reach over to mid underarm. So making sure that we're placing our cable stitch detail at mid chest, we're just going to continue on with that until this reaches mid underarm like I just said, and then once when it does, we're going to do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so we are back and the entirety of my side panel is complete. I have a total of 17 rows, and that is counting from my first single crochet row. This width is roughly 5 inches or 13 centimeters, or my total width is 7 inches or 18 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to repeat everything we did here on the other side, but just for the single crochet row, we're going to need to insert our hook into a different placement because we want to show the front of the single crochet to make everything as clean looking as possible. So what we're going to do from here is insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of our cable stitch detail. Then we're going to do the same single crochet row that we did on this side. So it's going to be 2 single crochets into every side cable stitch row, 1 single crochet into every side single crochet row, and we're going to make our way all the way up. And we should have the same amount of single crochets that we had on this side, so if you needed to add an additional stitch for the single crochet row, you will need to add an additional stitch on this side as well. Once we make our way all the way up, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back. Alright, so we are back. Our single crochet row is complete. Now before we get started on the side panel detail, just like how we did on this side, we're all going to need to insert a stitch marker into the 4th stitch from the top. And then from here, we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of our cable stitch detail, so into that same corner that we just inserted our hook into for our single crochet row. And then from here, it's going to be a repeat of our first side panel. So we're going to do our Suzette stitch portions with our decreases, and then our underarm with no increases and no decreases. When we have the same amount of rows completed, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back. Alright, so we are back and the entirety of my front panel is complete. I have a total of 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters, and now from here we're going to single crochet across the top of our side panels in order to prep for our cups. So we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to start with the right side of our front panel, and we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of our underarm portion. Then we are going to insert our yarn onto our hook and pull through and start with a chain 1, but that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to secure everything down. And from here we are going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So we're all going to start with 1 single crochet into that first side row. So insert into that top loop, and if you're like me, you don't wish to weave in your tail ends later, go ahead and just place your tail end over your hook. And then we're going to single crochet around everything. Now that is our first stitch for this prep row. Find our following side row, which this is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then there's 2. Let's do another set of rows together. This is my following side row. I'm going to find that top loop, insert into there, starting with just 1 single crochet. And then this is my following side row, so I'm going to insert my hook into that top loop with 2 single crochets. There's 1, and then there's 2. And we're just going to continue on with our single crochet row until we don't have any more side rows left to work into, and I'll meet you back at the base. So now that this single crochet row is complete, we're just going to connect it into the base. So just into that next available stitch that we have, into those 4 available stitches that we left, we're just going to slip stitch into that next stitch, which should be our stitch marker stitch. So I'm just going to insert, take my stitch marker out because I don't need it anymore, yarn over and pull through everything, and do a chain up of 1 to secure, and cut. Now just as a really quick tip, that slip stitch that we did to connect it doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect it. And now that this single crochet row is complete, we're basically going to do the same thing on the other side, but we're going to start with inserting our hook into our stitch marker stitch into the base, and then single crochet, working towards the outer edge because we want to show the front of our single crochet. So into the same stitch that we slip stitched our other single crochet row into, which should be our stitch marker stitch along the left, insert your hook in through there. Insert your yarn onto your hook and pull through, and then from here, just like how we did on this side, alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. We should end up with the same amount of single crochets that we did with on this side, and then once we don't have any more side rows left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so we are back. Our single crochet row along the left side is all finished up, and now we're going to get started on our cup. So we're all going to get started on the left cup together, even though both the left and the right are going to be done pretty much the same way. I'm just going to start by inserting my hook into that next available stitch that we have into the base. So on both sides of the point of our cable stitch detail, we should all have 3 stitches left. We're going to insert our hook into the stitch that's nearest to our single crochet prep row, and then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook. Once when our yarn is on our hook, we're going to pull through. And just for this first row, we're going to do a chain 2, and that will count as a stitch. So chain 1, chain 2, here's our first half double crochet. Then we're going to be putting 4 more half double crochets into the same stitch that our chain 2 is in for a total of 5. So yarn over into that same stitch with 1 half double, same stitch with a second half double, same stitch with a third, same stitch with a fourth, and including our chain 2, we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. Now from here, we're going to connect it into the base. So how we're going to connect it into the base is we're all going to start by counting up the next 2 available stitches. Here's 1, here's 2. Into that second stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. And now our row 1 is connected, and that row 1, and that slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect it into the base. Then, to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. That slip stitch still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. And all we're going to do from here is start and end our rows with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets, with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch in between. So yarn over, and finding the last stitch from our previous row, not any of those slip stitches into the base, we're going to insert with 2 back loop half doubles. So insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from you, pull through all 3, and then 1 more into that same back loop. So yarn over, same stitches back loop, pull through all 3. Then from here, 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until we all have 1 stitch left, which for this row, it should be the top of that chain 2 that we did when we started off our previous row. Now we should all have just 1 stitch left, and into that last stitch, which should be the top of that chain 2, insert with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets. So there is 1, and then into that same back loop with a second. Now let's just do the following 2 rows together. Since we're along the outer edge, we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. And like I said, we are going to start and end our row off with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles. So yarn over into that first stitch, insert into that back loop with 1, and then with a second half double, then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last stitch. Alright, so we've made our way down with 1 back loop half double into every stitch, and into that last, we're going to finish off the row with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles. And now that our increase is completed, let's just connect it into the base once more. So counting up the next 2 available stitches, there's 1, there's 2. Into that second stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch to connect this row. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work. Then remember, start and end our row off with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles, with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch in between. Now from here, we're just going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we have a cup height, the height that we'd like for our cup to be, but also remember that this will count as our underarm portion as well, and we will have a top band on top of our cup. So I'm going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until the height of my cup is roughly 2 inches underneath my underarm, because that's the height that I would ultimately like for my band to be when this cup is completed. So all I'm going to do is place this single crochet prep row right where my underwire would be, placing this cable at mid chest. Then continue to repeat this until I get the cup height that I would like. which would stop 2 inches underneath my underarm. And then I'll meet you guys back along the base. Alright, so we are back. The height of my cup is complete. I have a total of 7 rows. And just to let you guys know the height of my cup, it's roughly 3.5 inches or 8 centimeters. And if this does seem a little bit small, then keep in mind that we will have a top band to help fill everything out as well. But all we're going to do from here is just back loop half double crochet rows with no more increases and no more decreases till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. So just to get started on the following row, we should have all ended along the base, and we're going to slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base. So connecting it into the base is going to be per usual. Then we're going to flip our work, and then just make our way all the way down with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip your work, 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. When we reach the base, connect it into the base the same way that we've been doing. Continue to repeat these 2 non-increased rows until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so we are back and 1 cup is completed. We're now going to repeat basically the same thing that we did here on the other side. So I'm just going to show you where to insert your hook for the second cup. What we're going to do for this one is flip our work wrong side out, so making sure that the cable stitch detail is faced down and away from us. Then from here, just like how we did for this side, insert your hook into that stitch that we have into the base that's nearest to our single crochet row. Then from here, we're going to repeat everything we did here on this side, and when we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back. Alright, so we are back. The entirety of my front panel is now complete, and now we're going to get started on the back panel. Now, we're going to get started by making a chain for the same amount of stitches that we have for our last underarm row, plus our single crochet row in between our underarm and our cup, plus the same amount of stitches that we have for our cup. So for those of you that have my numbers, I have a total of 15 stitches for my underarm, plus 17 for my cup, plus the additional 1 for the single crochet row. So altogether, that's a total of 33. So I'm going to start by making a chain of 33, and I actually have the entirety of my back panel already finished up. So I'm just going to be doing a small sample size with you, but just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, adding up all the stitches that we have from our front panel should all come out to an odd number. Now once we all have our chain, we're going to do our Suzette stitch row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then we're just going to do a Suzette stitch row all the way down. So into that chain that we blocked off with a second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with our first Suzette stitch set. So just like before, it's a single and a double crochet into that same first chain. Then from here, we're going to skip a chain into the next to another Suzette stitch set. And we're going to continue on with this until we all have just 2 chains left. We are back and we made our way all the way down with our Suzette stitch row. And now that we have 2 chains left, we're just going to close off our row with a half double. So yarn over, skip the following stitch, and then into the next, which should be our last chain. Insert with just 1 half double crochet. And that's basically it for the back panel. We aren't going to be doing any increases or decreases. So all we're going to do from here is just chain 1, flip our work, and then repeat this row that we just did together. We're going to continue on to repeat this row until we have a back panel portion that can reach from mid underarm, stretch across our back over to mid underarm, and then I will meet you back right after an odd number of rows. Alrighty, so I am back and the entirety of my back panel is complete. I have a total of 41 rows. My width is now roughly 12 inches or 30 centimeters. And now all we're going to do is single crochet across the top of our back panel. But right before we get started with that, we're going to need to insert our stitch marker into the middle row that we have. So since I had a total of 41 rows, I inserted my stitch marker into my middle row, which is my 21st row. Then from here, we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, making sure that once we reach the stitch marker stitch, we're inserting back in. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 1 and single crochet into every side row. So we're all going to start by finding our first side row, this is mine right here, and insert with just 1 single crochet. This is my following side row, so I'm going to insert my hook in through there with 2 single crochets. So there is 1, and then into that same top loop with a second single crochet. Let's do one more set of rows. This is my following side row, insert in through there with a single. This is my following side row, insert in through there with 2 singles. So there's 1, and then there's 2. Continue on with a single crochet row till we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and don't forget, once we reach our stitch marker stitch, insert our stitch marker into the top of that single crochet. Alright, so now that the entirety of our front panel is complete, we're going to be doing one more prep row, and that's just going to be a single crochet row along the tops of our cups, so that once we get started on the top band, everything can be worked into there seamlessly. So this is going to be fairly simple, pretty much the same way that we did the prep row for the cups. So we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the top right corner stitch of our cup. Then we're going to single crochet. So alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, making our way all the way down. And then once we don't have any more stitches left to work into, all we're going to do is slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base. So I'm going to get the single crochet row finished up, and then I'll meet you back just to remind you where we're going to be slip stitching it into. Alright, so we've made our way down with our single crochet row, and now we're going to slip stitch it into the base. So we should all have just 2 available stitches into the base left. So into the stitch that's nearest to the cup, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch will look like an extra stitch, but it's not, it's just to connect. And we're going to do a chain up of 1 and cut. And when this single crochet row is complete, we're going to repeat everything we did here on the other side. But since we want to show the front of the single crochets, we're going to start by inserting our hook into the second available stitch into the base. So just like this side, we should have 2 available stitches. Just insert your hook into the stitch that's nearest to the cup and then repeat. So alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row till we don't have any more side rows left to work into. We should all have the same amount of stitches on both sides, and then I will meet you back to seam everything together. Alrighty, so we are back. Our single crochet row along the top of our back panel is complete, and now we're going to seam everything together. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our single crochet row is along the top because that is the top of our back panel. Then we are going to place our front panel on top of our back panel, making sure that the cable detail is faced downwards because we want these seams to be along the inside. Then we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Now from here, we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And all we're going to do is single crochet working in through both the front and the back panel at the same time. So let's just do the first few. We're all going to start by finding that first stitch into the front panel and insert. Find the first stitch into the back panel, insert in through there, and if you're like me, you do not wish to weave in your tail ends later, go ahead and place those over your hook, and then single crochet around everything. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch into the front, into that next stitch into the back, and single crochet around everything, and that's basically it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Alrighty, so we are back. Everything is all seamed up, and now we're ready to get started on our top band. So what we're going to do from here is make sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning our cable stitch detail is on the outside and our seams are along the inside. And then we're going to get started on one side first. So taking a look at the left side of our cup, we're all going to start by inserting our hook into that last available stitch that we left for ourselves into the base. We're going to insert our hook in through there. And then from here, we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook. We are going to pull through and start with a chain 3, but that chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, we just need the height. Then into the same stitch as our chain 3, we're going to be putting 2 double crochets. So yarn over. Into that same stitch that our chain 3 is in, there is 1 double crochet. And then into that same stitch again with a second double crochet. And now we're going to connect it into the base, which was our single crochet prep row along the top of our cups. So what we're going to do to connect our double crochet row is start by counting up the next 2 available stitches. So there's 1, and then there's 2. Into that second stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch is just to connect, it doesn't actually count as a stitch. Then we're going to slip stitch up the following 2 stitches to work our way up to the following row. There is my next stitch, insert with a slip stitch, and then my stitch right after that with another slip stitch. Now none of those slip stitches into the base count as a stitch, and from here we're going to flip our work. And for this top band, we are always going to do an increase of 2 back loop double crochets into the stitch that we have that's nearest to the base. So start with the yarn over. Insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row's back loop, making sure we're not working in through any of those slip stitches that we just did, with an increase of 2 back loop doubles. So there is one back loop double into that same stitch with a second back loop double, just like that, and then one back loop double crochet into the rest of our stitches, which since this is row 2, we should all have just one additional stitch. Now that we're at the end of our even number row, we're going to chain 3, that does not count as a stitch, and flip our work. Then from here, put one back loop double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one. So since this is our row 3, we should all have 2 back loop double crochets to do. So yarn over, into that first stitch's back loop, pull through, there's our first back loop double, into that following stitch with another back loop double, and we should all have just one stitch left right after that. So that is going to be an increase of 2 back loop double crochets. So there is my first back loop double, and here is my second back loop double. And now everyone's row 3 is complete. So now from here, we're just going to connect it into the base. So start by counting up 1, counting up 2. Into that second stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch, and that's it. Just to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up the following 2 stitches into the base. So there's 1, there's 2. Remember, none of those slip stitches count as a stitch. Then from here, flip our work. Start our following row off with an increase of 2 back loop double crochets, then 1 back loop double crochet into the rest of our stitches. Then from here, all we're going to do is just continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we get a total height that we'd like for the top band to be. Now keep in mind that this will go underneath our underarm as well, so giving us a little bit more height to our cup. So just continue to increase these rows until we get the height, and then once we do, I'll meet you guys back along the base so that we can finish up our top band together. Alright, so we are back. I now have the height that I'd like for my top band to be. I'd like for my top band to be roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters, and I have a total of 9 rows here. Now from here, we're just going to basically continue on with the double crochet rows that we've been doing, but now without any increases or decreases. So just to get started on the following row, since we all should be along the base, we're all going to slip stitch into the following 2 stitches into the base and flip our work. Now that our work is slipped, just put 1 back loop double crochet into every stitch. Then at the end of the row, chain 3, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop double crochet into every stitch again, and we're going to connect it into the base the same way that we've been doing. So basically just back loop doubles without our increases. We're going to continue on with our back loop double crochet rows until we reach our stitch marker stitch along the back, and then I'll meet you back. Alright, so we are back. We have made our way all the way around and have worked into our stitch marker stitch. And just as a really quick tip, if you guys are working into that stitch marker stitch, our last row is going to be a single crochet row just so that we don't miss out on that stitch. But that's pretty simple. Once when that is finished up, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then we're basically going to repeat everything we did here on the other side. So the way that we're going to do this one is we're going to flip our work over so that we're looking at the back, and then we're going to insert our hook into that last available stitch that we have into the base, and then repeat, making our way all the way around until we reach our stitch marker again. Once we do not do a chain up of 1 and cut, because then I'll meet you back so we can seam everything together. Alright, so we are back. We have just finished up both sides of our top band, and now we're going to seam everything together. And this is going to be the same seam that we did for the sides. So what we're going to do is insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. And we're going to make sure that our seam is going to be on the inside because we don't want this to be seen. Then just to do the first one, we're all going to yarn over and pull through everything. And find that first stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, then move that tail end, find that next stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so now that our top band is complete, the next thing we're going to do is a single crochet row along the top of our piece to prep for the straps. So we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, meaning the seam that we just did is along the inside, and we're going to insert our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our seam. Then we're going to put 2 single crochets into every side double crochet row. I'm going to pull my working yarn through and start with a chain up of 1 that does not count as a stitch, that's just to secure. And we're all going to start by finding our first side row. My first side row is this side single crochet row. So just into our side single crochet rows, which we should just have it along the back right here, I'm going to find that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet. Now from here, all of our side rows should be double crochets. So we're going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, then into that same top loop with a second. Let's do this again. Into the top of that next side row, insert with 2 single crochets. So there is 1, and then there is 2. And we're just going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around. Now, just as a really quick tip, when we do make our way all the way around to the front panel, we will have just 1 single crochet along the top of our cable stitch detail. When we put our 1 single crochet into the top of that stitch, just make sure that you're inserting a stitch marker into there so that we can all kind of have a general idea of where we're inserting our stitch markers for our strap. Alrighty, so we are back. Our single crochet row along the top of our piece is completed. Now all we're going to do from here is our straps. So first things first, we're going to want to try on our piece and then place our stitch markers where we'd like for the straps to start and end. So for those of you that want my numbers, I've inserted my stitch markers into the 11th stitch away from my middle stitch marker stitch, and that is on both sides because we want it to be even. And I did the same thing along the back. So counting out from my tail end, I inserted my stitch markers into the 11th stitch on both sides because I do want it to be even. Now you guys can place yours further out, further in, that's completely up to you and the vibe that you're going for. But once we have our stitch markers into place, making sure that everything is as even as possible, we're now going to get started on our left strap. So getting started on the straps, as you guys can see, I already have 1 strap completely finished and half of the other strap finished, but they're all going to be done exactly the same. So what we're going to do is start by inserting our hook into our stitch marker stitch, but making sure that we're inserting it from the top of that loop so that once we work our following row, it can lay down nicely. So once when your hook is face down like this, go ahead and insert your yarn onto your hook. Now this is going to start off the same for every size, so we're all going to start by doing a chain 2, and that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. We just need the height. And into that same stitch that our chain 2 is in, we're all going to do an increase of 3 half doubles. So yarn over, into that first stitch with a half double, same stitch with a second half double, and then same stitch with a third half double crochet, remembering that that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Then from here, chain 1, that's our turning chain, and flip our work. And this is going to be a Suzette stitch row. So into that first stitch, insert with a single and double crochet, so a first Suzette stitch set. Then close off the row with a half double crochet. We should all have 2 stitches left. So what we're going to do is yarn over, into the last stitch, insert with 1 half double crochet. Now we should all have 2 rows completed. We're going to do an increase at the end of every odd number row. So what we're going to do from here is chain 1, flip our work, and then do our Suzette stitch sets until we all have 2 stitches left. So into that first stitch, insert with a single and a double. And for our row 3, that should be our only Suzette stitch set since we should have 2 stitches left. All we're going to do into that last stitch is insert with an increase of 3 half double crochets. So there's 1, into that same last stitch with a second, same last stitch with a third. And that's it. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows. So let's just do the following 2 rows together as well. So chain 1 and flip our work. And how we're going to do every even number row is just a solid Suzette stitch row with no increases and no decreases. So into that first stitch with a set, skip a stitch into that next stitch with a set, and continue on with this until we all have 2 stitches left. And when we do, ending off every even number row, insert with just 1 half double crochet into that last stitch. Then to do every odd number row, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and do our Suzette stitches all the way down until we have 2 stitches again. Now that we have our 2 stitches left, since this is an odd number row, we're all going to do an increase of 3 half double crochets into the last stitch. And that's it. From here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until we end up getting a total width that we'd like for our strap to be, and then I'll meet you back right after an odd number row. Alright, so we are back. I have the total width that I'd like for my strap to be. That's roughly 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters, and I have a total of 9 rows, and now from here we're just going to do our Suzette stitch rows, but now without any more increases or decreases, until we have a strap that can now reach the outside of our arm, right at the middle, because we're going to be repeating the same thing on the other side. Once we have the total width that we want, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then what you're going to do after that is repeat everything we did here for the back panel, but once when the back panel strap is finished, do not do a chain up of 1 and cut, because then we can just seam it all together from there. Alright, so we are back. I have the total length of my strap complete. I have a total of 21 rows. My length is roughly 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters. I did already do the same thing on the other side, and now we're ready to seam it all together. So first things first, once when we're laying our piece down, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side up, And then we're going to make sure that the slant that we have, so the increase side of our piece, is faced up, because as you guys can see here, I already have this one finished up. We want it to all land like this so that it makes a really smooth curve. And we're going to make sure of that for the front and for the back panel as well. But once we make sure that that is into place, we're now going to sandwich our 2 straps together, and we're going to do a single crochet seam. But the way that we're going to sandwich it together, we're going to make sure that the single crochet seam is going to be along the inside. And since we already know how to do the seam, let's just do the first one. Let's pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then find that first stitch into the front panel, insert your hook. Find that first stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, and do a single crochet seam. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that our strap is all finished up, the last thing we're going to have to do is just seam the top slant of our strap to the top portion of our cup. So what we're going to want to do is try our piece on. Then we're going to be inserting our stitch markers into the stitch that we have that's nearest to the corner of our underarm within the front and the back panel. So for those of you that have my numbers, I counted out 10 stitches from where I first have my strap inserted and inserted my stitch marker, and did the same on the back because we do want it to be roughly the same. And now from here, we're just going to seam this together. Now this isn't going to have really any rhyme or reason. You guys can use a hook or your tapestry needle, whatever you guys like. All we're going to do is just connect the slant portion of our strap into every stitch that we have until we reach our stitch marker. Then repeat the same thing on the other side. Now this portion is already all finished up. As you guys can see, everything is just securely seamed until we reached our stitch marker. Then repeated the same thing on the other side, and we have a really nice fold over detail like that. Once we have one side all finished up, we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Then I will meet you guys back. Alright, so we are back. Both of our straps are all seamed up and we are all done. Last thing we're going to have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!